Whenever I talk about the Celtics or the Lakers, whenever the Pistons talk about the Celtics or the Lakers, we hold them in high esteem because they taught us, and we were good students, but at the same time, we were learning from the masters. And you've never heard us disrespect them in any kind of way.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up because you're right about the way you guys talk about each other, the Lakers, Celtics, Pistons. We don't hear the Bulls, and we'll see what we'll see in episodes 3 and 4. But they don't talk about you guys in that light as, man, they taught us, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have. I think they have mentioned, like Jordan said, he had to start lifting weights to beat y'all and stuff like that and toughen up. But why do you think it doesn't seem to be the same reverence for you guys, the Pistons, as you guys have for the teams that you had to eventually overcome?
That I don't know. And I think that's a question that you would have to ask them, and they would have to answer that themselves. And I do know, some people talk about, well, we were rough and everything else. Well, I can go back and show you that, hey, I got hit just as hard as Jordan got hit. I got as many bloody eyes and I don't think he ever got bloody eyes. I got bloody eyes and I got wounds. Okay, but they just didn't come from the Chicago Bulls. They came from the Celtics too. They came from the Philadelphias. They came from the Milwaukees. I mean, everybody played rough at that time to some extent. If you go and you look at Boston, LA's 30 for 30. When you watch Boston, LA's 30 for 30, you talk about rough, you talking about, trash talking and so forth and so on. And then when you go back further, hey, I'm watching Dr. J and Larry Bird physically go boom, boom, boom to each other. But the level of respect that everybody still has for each other, that's just the way it was. Now, I don't know why Chicago doesn't feel that way, but that's I guess that's their journey and their story to tell. The Pistons, we tell a story of respect and gratitude of the Lakers and the Celtics for being such good teachers and also being great champions, because they were.
The mythology says you guys had these Jordan rules. And the myth is it was just basically beat him up. Whenever he got in the lane, you're hammering him. Tell us, were there Jordan rules and what were they?
Yeah, so they were called Jordan rules, but they're defensive rules. They were about defense. And at that time, you wasn't going to give away your game plan or your formulas of how you're defending and stopping someone. So yeah, they called it them Jordan rules, but the way it was, what I figured out is that Jordan wasn't as good going left as he was right. And that's like no big revelation. However, but the way they were playing, their offensive scheme allowed us to force him left, double team him from the baseline. And consequently, when he became a passer, and he was a reluctant passer, he wasn't a great passer with his left hand. He was right hand dominant. So we would keep pressure on the right side to force that pass to be up in the air and not a direct line drive pass. If we can make that pass up in the air, then it gave us enough time to rotate defensively to get back and help and recover. And those were simply the rules. If he was on the right wing, force him to the middle because he was coming left. If he was on the right wing, force him left to the baseline, come over and trap. If he was in the middle of the floor, and from a basketball perspective, the middle of the floor is the most dangerous place to be. So that's why when you're taught as a point guard, you have to knock that offensive player out of the middle of the floor, because if he is in the middle of the floor, which I was able to operate in, then you can see right, you can see left. But if I can shade you to one side or the other, then I take away 90% of the floor. And that's what we were able to do to him successfully. Those were our rules. Now, we were disciplined enough on every single play to follow the rules. So our mental stamina, our mental understanding, 1 through 12, whoever came into the game, that's what made us so good. And that's why we talked about our mental toughness while everyone else talked about our physical toughness.
This is some basketball 101 right here.
I'm sorry to be doing it like this, but I
good.
apologize. This is the only way I can talk about it.
Yeah, this is great stuff. A lot has been made, Isaiah, and you know this, about there's this beef between you and Michael Jordan. Like, he doesn't like Isaiah and this and that. What is your notion of the relationship? I mean, you've seen Jordan. You've encountered him. What do you feel that there's something there?
I've never felt that from him energy-wise, and I've been to dinner with him. I've coached him in an All-Star game. I've seen him out publicly, and my son had a Jordan jersey in his bedroom. I've never experienced any animosity or hostility from him in any of the settings that we've ever been in. As a matter of fact, it's been just the opposite. It's been respectful, gracious, and and when he got to Chicago, we definitely communicated. Now, people want to make this beef between he and I. I have never seen or heard where Michael Jordan has said anything negative about me as a person. And all I can do is go by his word. Now, I've heard where other people have said, well, Michael said this, or Michael said this, or Michael, hey, Michael's a grown man, and he can speak for himself. And until I hear directly out of Michael Jordan's mouth, that's what I'm going to go by. Now, I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I know how people will spit poison in one ear so you can go and react and do something, that somebody else has fed you some bad information. So I don't play by those rules until I hear from this person himself. You can't tell me nothing about what this guy supposedly thinks, because the way he treats me and the way he acts around me, that's what I'm going to go by.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.